92.1 WROI, WROI-FM.com. We are streaming audio live on RTC Channel 5. And you will soon have audio and video on RTC Channel 4. Hello, Scott.
Good morning, sir.
Hey, Scott back in the studio with us. And if you have a smartphone or an Android, you can download the TuneIn Radio app and take us wherever you happen to be going. Pleased to introduce to you now the Democratic candidate for 2nd District of Congress, and that's Mr. Lynn Coleman. Mr. Coleman, good morning.
Good morning, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
We're going to talk about Lynn Coleman. We're going to get to your background and that kind of thing, but you made a few comments off the air before we started just about how grateful you are for this opportunity to run for Congress. Expand on that for just a moment, would you please?
Tom, I'm extremely grateful. This was not part of my bucket list or things to do when I grew up. I didn't go around and say when I grew up I want to run for the United States Congress one day. It just sort of happened, evolved, and through being involved in community and past positions and stuff, it just sort of evolved, and we're extremely grateful. And what we were talking about through this process has given me an opportunity to travel throughout the district, to go places that I don't ordinarily go, don't have a reason to go to, and to stop. And I've met an awful lot of good people and had a lot of good conversations, and so the process has been extremely educational and enlightening and beneficial, and I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity.
Talk with us about Lynn Coleman for folks not familiar with you.
Lynn Coleman is, a simple guy, born and raised in South Bend, Indiana, not far from here. That's home for me. I am the fourth of 6 children. My parents moved to Indiana, to South Bend, specifically in the late 40s, coming from Mississippi.
For the job opportunities, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
They were looking for job opportunities. In fact, they actually stopped in Chicago and got to Chicago, and someone told they had family there, and someone told them that there was a little company in South Bend called Studebakers that was hiring, and so they came over to South Bend, and my father was employed by Studebakers only for a short time. He left there, and his main career was in construction, so he worked construction for a long time. So that's where I grew up at. I went to high school at Washington High School, graduated in 1972. After graduation, I joined the workforce, and in fact, an interesting story, my mom and I, who she was unemployed at the time, we both went to A&M General, Kaiser Jeep. They made, at the time, they were making Army trucks for the Vietnam War. And we went out against my better judgment, but under her persuasion, we went to A&M General a couple weeks after high school, and we both got hired. And so we worked in the factory making Army trucks for a while there. I ended up messing up my back, had some back injuries, and had to have major surgery, so I spent some time on disability, and through that, I had an opportunity to go back to school, so I began to take classes at IUSB, and it was my hopes to be able to graduate from IU and become a juvenile probation officer. And things shifted again, and unbeknownst to me, during that time, I had an opportunity to apply for the police department. I joined the South Bend Police Department in 1977. Done that for 23 years, and as they say, the rest is history. There's a lot of other things that happened within that time. That's sort of how I got there.
Interesting to note from reading on your website that your interest, even as a policeman, still gravitated to juvenile issues.
It did. Coming from where I came from, I got involved with a group of young men from the LaSalle Park area. We affectionately call it the Lake in South Bend. A group of young guys that had gone away, had grew up in that community, gone away to college and came back, and were looking to try to find a way to provide opportunities for other young men in the community. People like Charles Black and Charles Martin, and Warren Outlaw, and Earl Hairston, George Jones, and somebody's going to get mad at me for not mentioning their name, but I can't think of everybody right now. Anyway, we started an organization called LaSalle Athletic and Action Program, and the basis of the organization was to work with young kids in our community, young African American boys, to try to keep them in school, keep them in both grade school and high school, and get them prepared for college. And I was a young kid myself at the time, and so in fact I was the youngest person in the organization, and they welcomed me, and so it gave me different insight on community involvement and service and volunteerism. And from that, I always had the thought that, wow, what an awesome opportunity to work with young people, to try to help young boys. And so I thought that being a juvenile probation officer would be a perfect opportunity for me to serve. And so when I joined the police department, it was my hopes to, I set a goal for myself that after I joined the police department in '77, I would go back to school and finish and get my degree, and I wanted to work in the juvenile aid department or the police department, again, to work with kids and that kind of thing. And I ended up having an opportunity. At one time, they disbanded our juvenile division, and so we didn't have one, and I was real deflated at that point and said, why am I here now? I can't do what I wanted to do. And so, but I hung around, and eventually we had an opportunity to recreate the juvenile department, and I was made the commander of that in 1991. And so we redesigned it and reinstituted the juvenile division. And so my whole career has been around working with community and kids. While I was on the police department, I worked part-time, and most police officers did at the time. The pay was not that great, and so most of us worked part-time to supplement the income that we had. And so I worked part-time at Riley High School. I worked security for the high school for probably about 10 years, and again, having an opportunity to work with kids on a regular basis and their families. And so it's just been a natural progression for me to be involved in community and kids.
Were you able to offset some of the gang things that go on with young people?
Well, I think we were. That was an intention at one time in 1986. When I left uniform to patrol, left uniform to work in gang crime. We were beginning to see major issues in our community with street gangs, and the chief of police at that time asked if myself and another guy, Norval Williams in fact, if we would work in a gang crime investigation for the police department. So we got around the community trying to identify people that were involved and who they were and what was going on, what we could do to try to mitigate some of the activity and problems that they were causing in the community.
Lynn Coleman is our guest. He's 2nd District candidate for U.S. Congress for representative. When you talk with people during this campaign, as you have and mentioned that, what are they saying to you? What do they see as the issues? What are the things that you're discussing back and forth? Well,
we're hearing a lot of things. Number one, people are saying that they want change, want something new, somebody different. Some of the main problems that we're hearing is jobs, employment, obviously the economy, jobs, and more jobs. And so that's
and good jobs.
Yeah, good jobs.
Right.
And that's a constant thing that we hear on a regular basis. We hear education issues, the opportunity to, that everybody has an opportunity to be educated as young as possible, and for as long as possible. And so that's an issue. College student loan payments, the cost of that, and how they can remedy that. So that's been an issue. Back to the jobs thing, closing down factories, trade issues on the federal level, where companies and firms are allowed to close here, putting people out of work and transferring those jobs to other countries for cheaper labor.
NAFTA?
Absolutely. And so NAFTA and TPP and all those kind of things. And so those things are issues. But a lot of people are, although those things are important and need to be dealt with, a lot of things mostly comes back to, what's happening in my house, opportunity to work and make enough money to be able to live off of a salary, So the increase of wages and those kind of things are things that we hear a lot about.
A couple of things that tie in together. Crime, for example, crime in the major metropolitan areas, Chicago, for example, Indianapolis, for example. And then that kind of relates to people's feelings about national security.
Well, national security has not just become a problem. It's always been an issue. What do we do? How do we make the United States a safe place for everybody, and not just certain portions of the country? And so national security is extremely important. And I think that congressionally, it's hard for us to determine or to make decisions on what happens. I think we have to make sure that we provide, or Congress provides, resources and service to the people that make those decisions, and that's why we hire, and create positions and national security directors, and they're the expert. And I told somebody the other day, it's almost like on a local level that you have a police department, you have a problem, and you don't allow them to do their jobs. You allow the community to dictate to you what to do and how to do. Well, they are local police officers for a reason, and it's our responsibility to give them the resources that they need to get the job done, to help them. But they are the trained professionals to handle that job, and we need to allow them to do that.
Lots of senior citizens in this particular district. Social Security, Medicare, those issues come up?
Yes, you do hear that all the time, and I think that Social Security is there for a reason, and we need to allow it to stay there. And it's awful tough for us to think that they would be better off if we privatize it, and it shouldn't happen. And people have worked all their lives to be able to receive that, and so we need to find a way not only to keep it but to enhance it, to make sure that it's there for those that have put into it. And I certainly look forward to it. I am now getting to the age now that I'll be able to sign up for that pretty soon, and so I would like to think that unfortunately both of my parents are now gone, but there's an awful lot of people that are around that have counted on that for years and years and years, and we need to make sure that we strengthen Social Security and Medicaid for the people that deserve to have it.
Of course, the other thing people like to talk about in regards to that is health care. Still a lot of confusion, it seems to me, about the Affordable Care Act that has been recently passed.
And the Affordable Care Act is not perfect, and I think we've got a lot of work to do with the Affordable Care Act, but it's there. And 4 years ago, there was a lot of people that without any kind of health care protection, and were not able to get treated and serviced and that kind of thing. And so since the Affordable Care Act is there, thousands of people in Indiana, millions across the country, have had an opportunity to go to a regular physician for checkups and not to hide medical issues for fear of not being able to be treated and that kind of thing. So I think for the Affordable Care Act, for what it is, it's extremely beneficial to our country and to the citizens here. I think that we need to go back and rework it and include some things and take some things, but I don't think we should scrap it and start all over and leave those people again to be vulnerable for not having protection.
Again, Lynn Coleman, our guest, and he is the candidate for U.S. Congress, 2nd District. Can you take a second to differentiate yourself a little bit from your opponent for this campaign?
Well, you know what? I don't know if that's up to me to do that. I think that's up to the citizens to do. I think that, and what I've told people, Tom, is that I am not in this race to run against Jackie Walorski. Okay, Jackie Walorski has been around for 4 years in the United States Congress, and I think for 6 or 8 years in the Indiana State Legislature. So people know Jackie Walorski. They know what she has done, excuse me, what she has not done. But what I do tell people is that I am not running against her. I am running for the people in the 2nd Congressional District, about 800,000 people. And if you notice, I didn't call them Democrats or Republicans. I call them people, citizens of this district. So it is my intention to provide representation, to provide advocacy for the people that live here, all people, not just certain people from certain districts or certain parts of the county, certain parts of the communities, but all of us. All of us deserve to have good paying jobs. All of us deserve to have good health care and Social Security. All of our kids deserve to have a good, strong educational base. And so that's what I'm running for, to be able to provide that kind of advocacy and support for everybody. And hopefully that through the process, as we get through this, people at the end will be able to determine who they think will be more representative and more supportive to the people in this district. I will tell you that one of the reasons why I decided to do this is that I think that the representation that we get throughout the district is probably not as strong as it should be. Oftentimes we don't see our representative. Now she says that she's here more than any other representative in the state of Indiana. I think people like Joe Donnelly and others would beg to differ with that. And even though she comes back to the second district, is she showing up in the total district, or is she picking and choosing, cherry picking where she can go and where she shouldn't go, where she's more comfortable at being at and not being in communities that she's not real comfortable at? I'm making a pledge to the people in the second district that I'll go anywhere. Obviously South Bend is home for me, and I'm extremely comfortable in South Bend, but I'm going to be extremely comfortable in Rochester and Peru and Pulaski County and the whole district, and I don't have a problem with going anywhere.
Does Lynn Coleman have a favorite candidate for Democratic president?
My favorite candidate is a Democrat, and we're looking forward to making sure that we keep that seat in Washington, D.C. You know what? And I think the process has been extremely interesting, to say the least, for a lot of different reasons. And I think that the Democratic Party has two strong candidates out there, and both of them could do the job. And from what we hear and what we've seen, obviously I'd like to see a Democrat stay in the White House. I will tell you that I'm extremely concerned about some of the comments and rhetoric that we've heard from the Republican Party.
Okay.
And I am not here to bash or to beat anyone, but when we hear comments, and for me as a law enforcement officer, as a retired police officer, when I hear somebody stand up on national TV and say that they can take a gun and shoot somebody, and people would still support them, and I'm concerned about that.
Okay.
When I hear bully comments about building a wall and keeping certain people out of this country and not allowing people to enjoy the freedoms of the same freedoms that we enjoy in this country every day, based on their race and their religion and their nationality. I'm troubled by that, and so for them to spew that kind of ideology and thoughts is concerning to me, and hopefully the good people in this country will see through that and make a wise choice.
Final question. Why should we vote for Lynn Coleman?
I think we should consider Lynn Coleman for a lot of different reasons. He's experienced, he's been involved, and for more than anything else, he cares. He cares about the community, he cares about the people here, and he's willing to work hard for you every day, not just sometimes, not just selected people, but all of us. I've done it for nearly 40 years in some capacity or another, either as a police officer, as a security guard in a high school, as a ombudsman for the mayor's office, as assistant to Mayor Steve Lickey for 12 years, as a volunteer, as professional, and he is willing to continue to fight. I am 62 years old. I'm at an age where I could have easily, I'm done with this, but there's still a fire in the belly. There's still some juice left in me that I think that we have an opportunity to offer to people in this district. And I think that there's an awful lot of work to be done, and I'm willing to do it.
Lynn Coleman, thanks very much for the visit. We look forward to talking with you as the campaign continues.
Thank you very, very much, Tom, for having us. We're excited about being here. We're happy to be here with Phyllis. Thank you, Phyllis, for inviting us down to Rochester, and we'll be back. And so thank you very, very much, and we look forward to coming back again.
Again, thank you.
Thank you very, very much.